The Dark Lord's Confession is one of the best webtoons. That's it, that's all there is to say. What more do you want? Fine, let's talk about a bunch of reasons why this series is so damn good in the first place. Starting with all the amazing and dark themes this series covers. Like for instance, how the past doesn't define who you are today. The past helps shape and define who you are. That much is true, but doesn't define you. Everyone has done stupid shit in their past before, but we all grow and change over time, and now a lot of us would never do the dumb shit that we did in our past again. And Lapis, the main character, has an extremely dark past that she can't even remember throughout most of her present day lifetime. But people are always telling her that she was evil and she caused all the problems in the world. Of course, she does have people who support her and are close to her, but she has been trying to overcome her past through the entire run of the series so far. She's trying to prove that she is a good person and not who the history books and other people make her out to be. There are so many people in this series that have different goals and values, and one of the biggest problems this leads to is betrayal. We have seen people be betrayed by other people constantly throughout this series. Lapis gets betrayed by a lot of people for spoiler reasons, I won't say any more than that, but Lapis isn't the only one we see. Other characters are betraying people throughout the series as well as they start learning the truth and realizing what must be done. There are many instances of betrayal throughout the series, and we see just how hard it is for some people. Having the people you trust and look up to betray you can be really hard to deal with sometimes, and we see these characters struggling with it all the time. With betrayal and dark past comes trauma. Trauma is something that a lot of people have to deal with on a daily basis, and it sucks, but for those people, getting help is always an option. However, in a series like this, it is not always so easy for all the characters to get help. Of course, some do get help by meeting wonderful people who can be there to listen to them and just be a shoulder to lean on. But others don't get to have that, as their trust in people is completely shot after being betrayed by so many people. The trauma that a lot of these characters struggle to deal with on a daily basis feels very real, and it can make the series hard to read sometimes. Seeing these characters pour their hearts and souls out to each other is a rough experience, but it makes you understand and love these characters even more than you ever really should. Now obviously, one can assume with all the themes the series covers that this series is pretty dark, and they would be right. There are a lot of really wholesome moments throughout the series that makes it pretty enjoyable, but the world and art and even down to the character designs is all really dark and sets the atmosphere and tone for this type of story that is going to be. The contrast between the fun-loving characters and the dark tone of the story works surprisingly well, because it makes the situation all the characters go through hit a lot harder as you care about them a lot more. The series isn't all dark though, there is some solid comedy in this series that makes it way more enjoyable. It all just works and comes together nicely to make an absolutely incredible series. There are a lot of series with good world building, plenty with great world building, but there are not many series with absolutely incredible world building. But this series is one of them. We're still pretty early on in the series, so there's a lot we don't know, but one of the things that makes this series stand out is that it does answer all of your questions in time. This series has been slowly trickling in information about the world as we read through each chapter, not ruining the flow of the story, but still giving us answers we seek on how things work, how they came to be, and where we are going. We also get to learn that this world is very fucked up in a lot of ways. Things have been twisted in ways that are going to be very hard to fix. People don't know the truth of the world and hate people for things that aren't even their fault. All the worlding builds up an incredibly broken world that needs fixing where possible. One thing that I think does lower it down one tier, however, and separates it from series like One Piece is that the world does revolve around the main character a lot. Everything feels in a way that helps her go on her journey. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, plenty of series do this, but it does hold the series back a little bit. However, don't let that get to you, not every piece of world building revolves around Lapis, just a lot of it does. This series has so many incredible characters. Let's start with the main character, Lapis. Lapis is a strong, independent woman, however she still has flaws and she still needs to rely on people. She knows what she has to do and is working very hard to try to achieve her goal. My favorite thing about her character is that she recognizes that relying on people and trusting people isn't a weakness but a strength. There are so many characters throughout many different series that struggle to learn this, but Lapis was able to learn this very early on in the series and ever since has always had people she trusts nearby. She's also someone who is very kind and understanding of others. She listens to people's stories and is always there for people when they need a shoulder to lean on or when they need some encouraging words. As a main character, she is incredible. Kala is another character who I absolutely love. She is introduced to us as the Dark Lord of the series' namesake, however, she is so much more than that. She is a very complicated person who has a dark past that we still haven't fully learned yet. She is a strong-willed person who is very intelligent and knows how to deal with a lot of different situations. Kala is a good example of someone who is struggling to learn that she can rely on other people. Sure, she has people around her and she trusts Lapis a lot, but Lapis is an exception, and the others she doesn't necessarily like getting involved, but knows she has to. Kala also makes for a great mentor character, not just for Lapis, but other characters as well. Enoch Aether is another character who I like a lot. He's a very complicated character. At the start of the series, you really like this guy, you learn his backstory, you see him be very kind and loving to any and everybody. But then you start learning more about his character and he starts to become more complicated. He does not hesitate to kill mages even if they are innocent people who have done no harm. We have seen him be brutal and cruel to people who are not fighting back, which makes his character more complicated and better to understand his motivations for everything. The rest of the cast of characters are great as well. Hector is a good friend of Lapis who accidentally learned her secret, but he kept it because he's a good person. Mavram and Venari are Lapis' two best friends and have been since childhood. They are great people who understand loss, but they don't blame the curse like most other people do, and that is because they met Lapis and became great friends with her, so they were able to understand that not all mages are bad people, which really expands upon the world and makes them great characters who are fighting with people who don't believe that. The rest of the characters are awesome too, like Ashton and the Dark Lord's disciples. They make for some really solid and fun characters to have around, which is cool. The Dark Lord's Confession is a series that I knew I would absolutely love going into it, and as expected, I did. The series is amazing. Everything about it is so good. From the themes it covers, to the amazing world building, to even the characters, everything is just so good and it makes experiencing this series just an absolute blast.